I'm Pat Bojo. I'm part owner of a company called SeedHawk. We manufacture a zero-till drill that bands fertilizer seeds and packs in one operation. We're located in Langbank, Saskatchewan, and our mission is to build the most accurate seeding system on the market. In this video, we'd like to point out the details of what makes our opener the most accurate on the market, as well as our metering system and other features that make the machine durable and long-lasting. I want to describe how the opener works because it's the most important part of our machine. SeedHawk has the best depth control in the industry, and it's all because of the way this opener works. We have the opener, it starts at the front where the pivot point is at this bolt, and it's all the way back to the packer wheel. I call that one opener. And the way this works, it pivots at the frame here, so the frame has nothing to do with the seed depth. It's really the packer wheel here that controls the depth of the seed and the fertilizer. So we have a packer gauge wheel here, we have a seed knife here that's placing the seed a certain depth below the packer wheel. Then this is the fertilizer knife. Then we have a hydraulic cylinder on the opener that pulls it into the ground and keeps it pressed against the ground at a pressure you set on the system. So each opener now looks like this. So as you look across the frame, each opener is completely independent of one another and independent of the frame. So that gives us very accurate depth. We can set, with a quick bin depth setting, we can set that depth at a ½ an inch below the packer wheel, and no matter how rough your field is, it'll seed each opener will seed a ½ an inch deep because of the way it works independently. Now I'll get the operator to lift it up and down, and that'll show you how it works independent of the frame. Rather than the frame lifting up and down like a cultivator frame, you'll see that the openers lift up and down independently. This allows us to build a very simple frame because it doesn't control the depth and it doesn't really have to follow the ground or go up and down. So now, the way the hydraulic system works is these opener cylinders are all connected in parallel, and there's a relief valve on the system that you set for the pressure that you want on the system. So right from the cab, you can set the pressure that you want on the packer wheel and the penetrating forces that you want on the opener. Now that pressure in the cylinder is commonly set between 800 and 1500 psi. But the operator can adjust that for the conditions that he's in. If he's in hard ground, he'll set it higher, or soft ground, he can set it lower. The tractor adds about 2 gallons a minute to the system continuously, and then the relief valve allows that 2 gallons a minute to go back to the tractor if it needs to. So that 2 gallons a minute is merely there to maintain the pressure on the openers. So each opener can move independently, but at a very consistent pressure. So if you're set at 1000 psi, you'd have approximately 250 pounds on the packer wheel, and it wouldn't matter where the packer wheel is, it'll have that same pressure. So we get very consistent seed depth, but we also get very consistent packing pressure across the frame as well. For 2005 models, we've added a sprocket to make seeding depth change a little easier. So we use a pin, you remove it, I would set it 1.25 inches, and now I'm moving it to 3/4 of an inch. And you can see how the packer wheel, that depth is changed by, it adjusts around the pivot bolt here. And so when we change the seed depth by 1/4 of an inch, we're also changing the fertilizer depth by exactly 1/4 of an inch as well. One of the important things about the SeedHawk system is that we use 2 knives to separate the seed and the fertilizer. The fertilizer knife places the fertilizer 1.5 inches to the side and 3/4 of an inch deeper than the seed. And this is the seed knife. And what that allows us to do is the seed knife runs far enough to the side of the fertilizer knife that it bands the seed on undisturbed soil, and it buries the fertilizer. When the knife is going through, it buries the fertilizer and then drops the seed in place. So there's no way that the seed can end up in the fertilizer band with a 2-knife system like this. And that's important when you're using high rates of dry, liquid, or anhydrous fertilizer. And our customers typically put on full rates of whatever type of fertilizer they want, and in any conditions, wet or dry, with this 2-knife system, we can count on very good separation all the time. For wear and maintenance, we've put a lot into the knives. We've got a tungsten carbide tip on the fertilizer knife. It'll outlast 5 sets of shovels because everybody's soil is different for wear. We have a stainless steel piece that wraps around the knife to clamp the drop tube in place. This drop tube is rubber, so it flexes as it's going through the ground, and that's really important. In muddy conditions, it won't plug because it's always moving and flexing, so the air pressure will keep it from plugging. And the rubber drop tube is also easy to maintain. After several seasons, you can slide it down and cut the bottom inch off, and it's like new again. We use the same system on the seed knife. We have a tungsten carbide tip. We have the stainless steel wraparound for clamping the boot on. Same kind of boot, same boot exactly. It's a rubber drop tube. And the maintenance cost, in general, farmers, if they budget 25 cents an acre for total maintenance over long term, that's enough to keep a seed hawk maintained. Our packer wheel is an air-filled tire. Again, we do that so we have the flexing of the tire to release mud. It's a 4-ply tire with a tube in it and a steel valve stem. And we find the air-filled tire better for in muddy conditions, so that's why we've gone to that. It's 4 inches wide, so it seals up the entire area that's been disturbed, and it still acts as a very good gauge wheel because it's wide enough to catch the outside of the furrow and run on undisturbed ground. On the seed knife, we have on this side of the furrow is what we call the hard side of the furrow. The fertilizer knife breaks up the other side of the furrow. So we found we were getting more wear on the drop tube that was acceptable, so we put this little stainless steel piece in. That protects this drop tube. We're able to run it quite close to the tip of the knife so we get good seed placement, but it eliminated the wear on the drop tube. This demonstration shows how the opener's hydraulic trip system works when hitting a rock. As you can see, the hydraulic trip ensures that there is no damage to the opener.